In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather's fine, you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. If a daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If a daddy's poor, just do what you feel. Speed along the lane, you go down or a turn of 25. When the sun goes down, you can make it good and live by. When I grab people, when I dirty, when I mean, we love everybody, but we do as we please. When the weather's fine, we go fishing or go sailing in the sea. We're always happy, lives we live in, yeah, that's our philosophy. Sing along with us, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da, yeah, we're happy, da-da-da, dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da. Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da, all right, da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. When the winter's here, yeah, it's party time. Bring a bottle, wagon back, cause it'll soon be summertime. And we'll sing again. We go driving, or maybe we'll settle down. If she's rich, if she's nice, bring your friends and we'll all go into town. In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather's fine, you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. If a daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If a daddy's poor, just do what you feel. Speed along the lane, you go down or a turn of 25. When the sun goes down, you can make it good and live by. When I grab people, when I dirty, when I mean, we love everybody, but we do as we please. When the weather's fine, we go fishing or go sailing in the sea. We're always happy, lives we live in, yeah, that's our philosophy. Sing along with us, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da, yeah, we're happy, da-da-da, dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da.
I mean, you got to figure as soon as we were here on a reasonable stream talking about how we believed we could change the world, that's when it would happen. And I don't know, you probably can't hear the music right now, but I sure to hell can. I got to turn it off. It's right place, man. It's just fucking jamming in my ears. I turned that. Here we go. There we go. Dr. John, be gone. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll get the boys back. If not, I'll cover some of these stories by myself. Ogre, need a link. It's up there. Okay, you need one. I sent you one on Twitter also, mate. But I will send right in the link if you'd like. Here it is. Moz, you too. Just join us here. And we'll try to get back to what it was. Fuck, man. There you are. I don't even know, man. I just boom. I was listening and I'm listening. I was like, I said something. I was like, oh, they didn't hear me. And I was like, hey, what's up, boys? And I look down, and there's this fucking X where my damn internet connection is supposed to be, like on the world. It's like an X. Fucking cocks. So anyway, we're here, and hopefully we'll get Moz back on because I don't even know what I missed. I think the best point made was that, yes, Sargon's rich and famous. I mean, he's a big shot. So no, we don't need to go with his. We need to. I like this. I like what Moz has proposed here. And I think what not only we need, but the larger world in general needs, common sense, is more people that are willing to think about what direction we need to go in.
I agree completely with that. I do like the idea of having this type of a movement, so to speak, or a political idea or grouping that can work in real life, but also have a area on the internet where they can meet up, they can listen, they can exchange ideas, invite other MPs on, and everything else. That in itself is an amazing idea, and I think that it has the potential to actually work. As you said before, it's just a case of how we implement it. How you doing there, Moz?
Yes. Yes, so glad to have Moz back. Do we have you, Moz? Say something so we know you're back.
Hello again. Hello again.
Thank goodness. So yeah, where were we at, mates? Because let's try to pretend that the man didn't just derail our shit. Let's try not to be as paranoid as the ogre and assume that that was just some kind of weird fucking... And it seemed like it was just enough to make it where we couldn't continue to stream. So where were you at, Moz? What did I miss? What is the manifesto that you speak of?
Well, it's that is what I think is the first stage we need to decide. I mean, I've written down a list of things, but they were more written in a joking manner. But it's just I'd like to try to get what British people want, and I think as far as and I'm not trying to be one-sided when I say this, but I think because of Brexit and we're not getting that, I think issues like the Brexit divorce bill shouldn't be anything. British law will be enforced. Immigration stops until we can start out a sort of system. It's just generally the feeling of what the majority of British people wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I know what I'm going to do when I get off of this stream. I'm actually going to physically write down a manifesto of what I think would be decent ideas. I'm going to go through Brexit. I'm going to go through devolution of power. I'm going to go through different bits and pieces, and I'm going to post it in Discord, as well as obviously on Twitter. Yeah. And I'm just going to see what you guys think afterwards. I mean, I'm still going to be talking about all different things, but I think that will be the best thing for me anyway.
And I mean, if you got the time to look at the thing that I sent you with the 17 odd. Well, they were meant to be jokes, but when I was looking at them, I was thinking, well, actually, number 9, frontline services to receive pay rises at the cost of living rate. If the cost of living rate goes up 15%, then firemen are getting a 15% pay rise and stuff like that. Again, I've not worked out the money, obviously, but it's just...
Well, but that's firemen, and that is a job that is provided by the state or community, and that's why I agree with that. We can't just blanket say that all everybody's should go up. They should, but that's
I'm not talking about just civil servants.
So if you will,
risking their lives,
if you will, give us the top 3 of, I believe it was 9. There was a few. Give us the top 3 on that list. What are the top 3 most important things? Good to have you back, Memes of Destruction. You will be important in this conversation.
Well, if I try and roundabout way tell you what it means, it's simple things like if immigrants that come to the country, and obviously I'm talking about all immigrants. Someone's going to say racism, and I'm like, no, all immigrants. We've got too many people here, so the way to stop it, immigrants that come to the country, they're not going to receive benefits for at least 10 years of working and paying taxes. And now I feel that that's not racist, but it's going to stop some of the immigration. If you commit a crime as an immigrant, you're going home. It's that simple. And to me, English law or British law is going to be British law. It's not going to be picked and choosed and cherry picked the way it is at the moment. It will stand as it stands, and it applies to everyone, regardless of what you believe. And it's difficult to put it all in one go, but it's the simple stuff like if you want to protest, you don't get to wear a mask. If you want to go on a march, you don't get to wear a mask. It's a public breach of order. It's a £500 fine. You're arrested. No messing around. You're arrested. And just common sense stuff, I think, really.
Well, if you're gonna arrest somebody for teaching their dog to do a trick, Well, then I certainly.
Well, that wouldn't
agree.
happen. That wouldn't happen.
I certainly agree. No, I'm just saying if the administration, if the law, if the state is going to do that, then I would not disagree, because we have had anti-mask laws here since the Old West. Can you imagine why? I mean, we don't want masked men riding into town, robbing a fucking bank. We don't know who the hell they are. That has nothing to do with freedom. When I see these antifas masked up, I mean, come on. If whether or not you agree with their dogma, that's up to you. I respect you. If you agree with it, I'd like to know why, but I would respect you. I just would say this: could we all agree that taking this Aunt Jemima bandana off and turning it into a bandito mask, that stops my ability from going into the community at large?
Yeah. I mean, again, I wouldn't say if it was snowing you can't wear one. I'm just saying if you're going to be at a protest, putting across a political point, or as I've recently seen, if you're going to be on Speaker's Corner, covering your face so that you can abuse people you disagree with, that's not okay in Britain. That's not the way the British act. It's a £500 fine.
Well, people think you're up to no good.
Yeah, exactly. Which you generally, your argument's not strong enough that you can openly show your face because you're going to embarrass yourself.
Well, you did have a good one, because I think there was a Volkswagen commercial actually where a guy goes in and all of a sudden, like, the cashier's like freaking out, and then all of a sudden he goes out. He's like, "Oh, everything was free." And it's like, you went in with a ski mask on. It's like, "Oh shit, get the fuck out."
Yeah.
To be fair, Mad Dodge Productions has made quite a decent point, which is what I was actually thinking about myself. If you can use the law of not hiding behind a mask, so to speak, while making political points or political activism, then what would be the difference from doing political activism on YouTube and then hiding behind an avatar?
No, look, me, and I'll say this, Mad Dodge, you don't have the right to wear a Guy Fawkes mask. You don't. Because it's public safety. I'm sorry. I believe in freedom of speech. I'll be the first one to say it. But and let me say this: depends upon, I guess, what you're doing. But no, there should be a blanket law, not depending upon what you're doing, that says that law enforcement, if we believe in such a thing, which I don't, but if we have them anyway, they should enforce. You can't be in public wearing a mask, especially in these situations where you have people hitting each other in the head with bike locks and fucking they can't. No.
Well, Ogre, not all, remember, because that would be
doesn't matter
against Halloween.
No, but okay, but even Halloween, if someone looked to a police officer to be over the age of 16, you got to stop them and say, "Oh, would you lift that mask up?" And then if they have a problem lifting the mask up, I don't know, man. I'm not for masked people. That's very anti-American.
That's where I tend to agree with you. And I brought up the Halloween thing to be a little bit of devil's advocate there, but I'll give you a quick example.
Good point, though. Good point.
No. I want to do that for a reason, because I had a personal experience where some folks here, I'm not sure if it was on this stream, but if folks remember when I dressed up like Bane for one of the PAX East conventions a number of years ago, I was walking into the Boston Convention Center, and I had my full getup and everything on. And we must remember, this was shortly thereafter the theater shooting at The Dark Knight Rises, the perpetrator whom was wearing a gas mask. So as I was making my way towards the facility, there were a number of Boston's finest out there. So, albeit it was a comic/gaming convention, and I should be well with my right to cosplay, I erred on the side of, well, something terrible happened that is associated with this character. Perhaps it's smart if I at least walk in not wearing a mask. So I carried it to my side, made sure my hands were visible at all times, and the police left me alone.
Yeah.
So
because like you said, you were acting reasonably.
I was going to say, I think that's the point there, is like, you can't say Halloween children £500 fine, because then they're not politically active against anyone, and that if there's a demonstration and a load of people turn up in masks to counter demonstrate, you take your mask off, you go home, or it's a fine.
Well, and if because we're talking about two different things too. Let's remember Halloween, Comic-Con. Come on. Now, and that's not to say that if there's let's not call them police. If there's a there at the convention center that says, "Hey, Bane, lift the fucking mask up. We want to take a picture of your face." Well, you're in a public place. If they have, even if they don't have a reason to think you're doing something wrong, yeah, of course, you lift your face up. You let them take a picture. Why? I'm not saying because, if you don't have nothing to hide. No, it's just because, man, that is a time. I mean, if we think about the world and the way it is, that is a time people could take advantage of to do horrible things. In general, let's leave off the other things. I would say, I don't know about the 50 quid fine, Moz, because I'm so anti that shit. It doesn't sound like a bad idea. Let me qualify it that way. But you should not be able. If someone asks you, if you're wearing a mask and someone says, "I'd like to see your face," I don't care if it's a fucking cop, because I only threw that in because I guess they have authority. I don't know how they have more than me. But if I look at you and say, "I'd like to see your face," if you're not willing to show it, you gotta fucking go. You can't. This is not, we don't live in a society where we make women wear burqas. This is the West. We show our face. We salute each other to show our right hand is free of a weapon. We don't buy that fucking bandito shit.
I'll be honest. The fine itself was just off the top of my head. It's more of the fact that I think we're not implementing the laws as they are, and the £500 was a way to say this law is going to stand, and we are going to implement it. It's not going to be, "Oh, we'll do it for this person. We'll do it." No, it's for everyone. It stands.
Can I make a quick couple of points, please?
Yeah, of course.
First of all, the idea of making a blanket ban on masks in general is ludicrous. I'll tell you the reasons why in just a second. The idea for it being for politically activated or activists in general, I can understand the point. And I could even go with it. But a blanket ban on masks in itself is ludicrous. You can have the issues of people walking around with masks, but as soon as they want to go into a public a private area, as in a shop or a bank or a school, they have to remove said mask. For instance, as you've already said, if you're going to Comic-Con or a particular place that's going to be having it, you're going to be wearing it anyway. It's a case of taking somebody's liberty away and actually not being able to do what you want to do, so to speak, especially for people that are not planning to kill people, not planning to do something stupid. That's the problem that I have with this thing. I do understand the premise, but it's a case of, if somebody's got nothing to say and nothing to do, then wear the fuck what you want. I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, it's also discriminatory against folks like Deadpool, because remember, he's got the face of an ugly avocado that fucked an uglier avocado.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he's also typically looking to kill people and do bad things.
The mask thing, then, we could probably drop down to a situation where if I'm standing around doing nothing and the policeman or whoever comes up and starts questioning me, if I raise my voice, he will go to me, "Oh, that's under Section 2, breach of peace, I could arrest you." But there seems to be a group of people, for instance, Antifa, which I would designate as a terrorist group, they're allowed to go out on the streets and do worse, and nothing's happening to them. So I came up with a mask idea, but if we was just implementing the breach of peace idea to everyone equally, wouldn't that stop the same thing? You know, give them a chance. Stop screaming, shouting, go home, or you're getting arrested.
This sounds like a familiar conversation.
Yeah, just quickly. It doesn't matter if you scream and shout. That's not what the issue is. You can scream and shout even if you have a mask on. I don't give a shit. It's when you start implementing the idea of smashing stuff. That's the difference. That's the reason why you don't want them to wear masks. Not because you don't care about if they scream and shout, because that is everybody's right to be able to do that. I don't give a fuck if you wear fucking Hulk Hogan's mask and pretend that you're fucking Russian. It doesn't matter what the fuck you are. You can do what you want and you can protest. Doesn't matter what you wear. It matters when you start activating and starting hitting people with it. That's when it becomes a criminal offence.
Well, and that's the basic reason why we don't like. And here's the problem that I have. I'm going to play devil's advocate on Mad Dodge Productions side right now and say, okay, we also shouldn't look down on people that carry concealed. There should be no licensure or anything. If you want to take a weapon, a firearm that you can, and put it in a sneak holster, whatever, that should be your business. But I got to say it, in this country, as much as we are for the Second Amendment, we don't like a sneak thief, you know? When we think about somebody with a concealed weapon, I mean, and that's the only reason I'm saying that is in the old days, you just carried your firearms. People could see them. You just carried them. It was kind of like a kerchief in your pocket of your sport jacket. It's just what you did. And so there wasn't so much the need. Nowadays, it may have changed. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. The reason why it's hard for me to say, because I don't think we should be masked in public, okay? But the reason it's difficult for me to say, no, it should be illegal, is because then I do have to look at the idea of concealed carrying a weapon. And I don't know, man, holy fuck. In the end, boys, shouldn't the rule be if there's no harm done, there should be no law broken?
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? That's exactly the point. I mean, the idea in itself, you can quite easily change the law so it's not a blanket law, and so it targets specific aspects of what's going on, which you can quite easily target it as aspects of political activism, as we said at the beginning and Moz said at the beginning. You can have it so if you have an assembly point and you know it's a march and you know it's a protest, then you can't wear a mask. You can just tell them to fuck off. They're not allowed to participate without having the mask off, and confiscate the mask off of them. If it comes to that point, you don't have to give them a fine. You can take the mask off of them to say, I think that you're going to be doing something stupid because you brought a mask with you. You can put that to that point because then you actually have a reason and you can actually have a hypothesis to that point. But the only problem that I have with that is that you could extrapolate that point and then classify onto internet avatars that are politically activists. Simply because if you have someone like myself that uses a cat or whatever, and I'm really active and I really oppose the government, they could then ask me to remove my avatar by law to say that if I want to be politically active, then I have to show my face while I'm doing it. So there are aspects that are good in that type of law, but there are aspects that can be extrapolated into internet law. And we have to accept that when we're making these laws for these manifestos and realize that what we make on paper can be transferred to everything that's in real life.
The analogy needs to hold in some respects there. And that brings up a whole other topic about, do individuals have a right to anonymity upon the internet? And I think that's a big question that will be decided within the next decade. For better or worse, whatever we have, I think that's something that does need to be addressed.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm on the aspects of saying that I do think that political anonymity on the internet would actually and should be upheld. But it's the process of the law, for instance, that if they can tell that you're in the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom passed that political activist law saying that you can't wear a mask when being politically active, then you can transfer that law to in the internet because they police the internet already. So you could already transfer it across to that point. That's my only meaning behind it.
And they are actually, in some ways, trying to do that now. There's a lot of people that are pushing for you to have identification to use Twitter and have to have, actual physically know who you are. But obviously that comes with problems of doxing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And listen, at the risk of what am I trying to say? I don't want you to think I would steal from you, Moz. So what I'd like to do is continue the conversation on this manifesto, and I'd like for, if with your permission, myself, Magic Bollocks, Memes of Destruction, Common Sense Guy, and probably a couple others that I'm not naming right now, to be able to take a look at it and then to put their own opinions in on it, and then to continue a discussion in this vein. Would that be all right with you, Moz?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'll make it clear now for the live stream and for future reference that any idea I give you, it's yours to do with as you want. I'm not looking to make any money or anything. If you can improve it, do so.
No, it has nothing to do with money. We just
Oh yeah,
always
no, I'm just saying, my ideas are just for everyone.
Yeah, but we always want to give credit where credit is due. I think for me, in fact, I know for me, that is the most important thing, that we would move forward, but we'd always do it in respect. So I've got the first story here, unless boys, before I move on, and thank you so much, Binary Surfer. It would have been nice to have you on today, but I understand you're a very busy guy, and we do have a full panel here. Just one more mind wouldn't kill us. Is there anything else on this topic before we lay this low for another day and hopefully a reoccurring topic on this stream?
That's fine. The future is ours.
Okay. Well, we see this nativenewsonline.net. Most of these stories came from Common Sense Guy today. Some of them came from other places, but just in the interest of being fair, I'm going to give credit to Common Sense Guy. So thank you, Common Sense, for all the stories. This is from nativenewsonline.net. The hanging of the Dakota 38 and the troubling legacy of President Lincoln. And you see these horsemen here on would be the barren flats of North Dakota, and what they call now I'm not going to be able to say it. The wastelands is what I want to say, but out there in North Dakota. So it says hundreds attend a ceremony on Tuesday, December 2017, to remember those executed by orders of President Abraham Lincoln 155 years ago. Yeah, years ago. Let's all remember too, those without sin cast the first stone, and we are all at problems. So very quickly, if I may, commentary published December 26, 2017. In the museum located at the base of the Lincoln Memorial, there is a plaque hanging on the wall which states, "I would save the Union. My paramount objection in this struggle is to save the Union, and it is not to save or destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. I have stood near this plaque." That's the end of the quote from Abraham Lincoln, by the way. "I have stood near this plaque and watched lines of people pass by. Most simply read it and move on. Almost no one pauses or even raises an eyebrow. But when I stop them and point out that this plaque is literally stating that according to Abraham Lincoln, black lives do not matter, they look at me, turn around, read the plaque again, stare at it in disbelief, shake their heads, and then pull out their cameras and take a picture. Oh man, this is so condescending, boys.
I don't like this story already.
Here's the one you'll like the most, because this is so condescending, Common Sense. And then after this, I don't need to read more of this drivel. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves, because this is what this human being says after that. "I then educate them on even more troubling history regarding our 16th president." Now, kicking it over to you boys, we all know one person that could come on here and tell us all about our 16th president, Abraham "I look like a monkey" Lincoln, and that would be Mad Dodge Productions. But what does this mean? I mean, should we judge? This is where I want to kick it off from, and I'll let y'all go in any direction you want. But memes, should we judge the past by today's standards?
Well, today's now. That was then. Doesn't necessarily make it right. The sins that happened back then, I wasn't there. I prefer not to see people get killed by any means, but it's one of those things, dude. If you keep on going back and trying to either correct, purge, or just literally delete history, we're going to forget where we came from. Because we all know what they say about people that forget history. You're just doomed to repeat it. And I'm afraid we're doing that right now. We just keep on going through the same cycle again and again. people end up taking offense to things. And here's the thing. And again, I go back to Professor Peterson. It's just, if you get on a large enough scale, somebody will be offended. You will piss somebody off. It doesn't matter. If you're exposed to enough things, yeah, there are going to be things that irk you. Yes, this was a terrible thing. People were executed. There was battle. There was war. It's just, again, context, like Dank said, should matter. Doesn't necessarily make it better, but it does matter.
Yes. Boys, take it away. Don't let him stop you. I'm just going to kick back here and listen to y'all's opinion on this. So, but before I do, let me just let him clear up one thing. So, not saying you didn't know this memes, but since you're the only other Yank here, whether or not you knew this about our illustrious 16th president or not, does this change your opinion of him?
Well, he said what he had to because he was also a politician. So irregardless of whatever personal things, I mean, I honestly believe that's what he probably felt at the time? Absolutely. This was also at the time where an individual whom happened to be black and was not a free individual was considered 2/3 of a person. We realized that that wasn't a great idea. So we changed that.
Irregardless is not a word. Carry on, Moz.
Yeah, I just think memes has made the best point with him, what he said there. It's how far back in the past do we go? If we're going to go back and say, well, this was an issue, well, are we going to go back and say what the Romans did were an issue? Are we going to go back and say what the Neanderthals did is an issue? No, where do you stop? Where do you draw the line? We can't cherry pick what reparations we want. And can I add, obviously, I don't know American history, but couldn't you also interpret, if I heard it right, he was almost kind of saying, he was saying the same as, I would kill as many white people as necessary to save the Union. If it was some white people, I want to save the Union. If it's all white people, I want to save the Union.
Moz?
Yeah.
Moz was the transverse, memes was the transverse, because I could give my opinion, but nobody cares. I give it all the time. Was the transverse implied in his statement there? Was
it implied? I don't think so. I mean, one could extrapolate that by saying the man would do what he could to save the Union by any means necessary.
By any means.
Some may say.
So it could be extrapolated, but you don't feel as though he was implying that. He put a point on this, but to you, and I would say to it did sound as if he was saying he would do anything to save the Union.
Well, that's what I took from that. I mean, again, like, I believe the individual in this article is pointing out the fact that, yeah, it was a primarily white nation and black folks didn't have a lot of rights often. So, and like, that's something that we have worked to fix. I mean, if you get, it's like anybody. Whether it's a nation or just a single human being. If you get caught up in the past and all you ever do is fervent and just lament about the past, again, I am inventing new words here, guys. Just roll with it. Basically, if you're stuck in the past, you're just always going to stay there and you're just going to destroy yourself internally. You need to accept that it's now, and move on and live your life.
May I make a quick point?
Yes, in fact, I was going to kick it off to you. Way to shut me down on mocking you for your choice of words, James. Yeah, absolutely, sir. Please close us out on this comment since we have 4 other stories.
Just very, very quickly. The actual quotes are, well, I'm going to paraphrase, but the quotes are around saying that I would make sure that I keep the Union as it is, whether I kill black people, whether I don't have to kill black people. Yeah, that's better. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. I think we have to actually look at when this was actually said. I have a sneaking suspicion that this was actually not said at the beginning, at the end of the war, at the end of the Civil War. I have a sneaking suspicion that it was said right at the beginning of any war before it was even conceived properly. The reason why I say that is because if you look at the actual context of what the words are, it's saying, I want to preserve the union that we have with the North and the South, no matter what. Now, if that means that I have to free some of the slaves, then I will do so. If that means that I don't free any slaves, then I will do so. That is not to say that I want to kill all black people. That's not to say that I don't want to kill all black people. The context in this matters a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
As Memes has already said, it's to do with a politician trying to make a point by saying, I am willing to listen to what you have to say and what you want to do. Come to the table and let's negotiate before anything happens. The fact is, they didn't come to the table, they didn't negotiate, and unfortunately, that's what happened. But to take it out of context and say, oh, Abraham Lincoln just didn't really care about black people at all. He thought that black lives didn't matter.
That's
it was
bullshit.
The case of... Exactly. But if he didn't care about black lives mattering, then why did he say in those words, if I have to free all the slaves, I will do it? Why did he say that? If he honestly didn't care about them at all, why would he say I would free all of them?
Good point. Context and also to give you a little bit of credence as you finish your point here, it was this says December 26, 1862, that the mass execution happened. I do believe, and I'm looking, that it was right around 1862 that he said these words, common sense, which would make you correct. This was at the beginning of the war. It wasn't like he said this at the end. He was saying, look, I am not fighting for slavery. I would fight, and I would do anything to not let two factions, as we decided that they were, war amongst each other and kill brother and brother.
Yeah, I think, again, to me, it just seems it's another situation where we're picking something out of history and filtering it through today's racial agenda and saying, oh, look at this racist. Well, no, that's,
Well, Moz, we need to add another intersect to this. Let's go back another little less than 100 years. And we must remember, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That's obviously problematic.
Yeah, why would I want to look at that?
Well, that's a good point.
Well, history, man, also just was plural for like human beings. But I mean, we don't need to pay attention to that.
Oh, they had to do so many gymnastics because of the statement that Memes just pointed out. They had to say, oh, well, God doesn't love them as much. Oh, they're related to monkeys. Oh, all of these things. And whereas I look at the bell curve and I believe that there are things that are different when it comes to race and gender, there are things that are different. I don't buy into that blanket statement. And I think we can all stand firm on this. So let's do this, boys. Let's each give our last little wrap up on this, because as I said, we could go all day on this one topic, but we have 4 other really great stories that we need to get to in about the next hour. So let's do this. Low man on the totem pole is Moz. We'll go to Memes, then we'll go to Common Sense. I've already said plenty on this. So let's wrap this up, boys. Give your last words. Should we hate Lincoln because of this? Should we burn his statue? Should we tear down other statues? Should we judge people in the light of 2018 when we're talking about 1862?
I don't think we should. I think it is about remembering our history. I think we've got to look at things that have happened, whether they be good and bad. And in some cases, and, I'm going to get called a Nazi for it, but statues of bad people, I think, should stand as well, because it reminds us that bad happens and we can't forget that. And that's really all I can say on that.
Yeah, and just to take on what Moz was saying, it just really, for me, comes down to, should we hold the sins of the father upon the sins of the son, daughter, or whatever may have you? I tend to think no, even though if I were to agree with that, I mean, I guess Germany and Egypt are going to owe both myself and Mr. Ogre some very, very big compound interest there. But no, I don't think we should. And if you actually look at this particular situation in context, he said he would do what he needed to help preserve the Union. Well, the Union started to fracture, and what did he actually do? He did what he said in it. He freed all the slaves. So I also believe what Dank says. Context matters.
Very much so, yeah. No, just to basically reiterate all the points that have been made by the lads already. It's the fact that you have certain people that look at historical events and want to change different historical events to the context that it comes to them, their interpretation of it. So when this person looks at this person thought that he was talking about the idea of slavery in general, and not what the context of what he was saying was, which was, I will do anything to protect the Union. Now, this person also, after taking these quotes out of context, says that he then re-educates people. In other words, trying to dilute what actually was happening and what actually was in context of historical context by actually trying to go, well, let's put it in today's perspective. And you, as everybody's already said, you can't put history in today's context. It doesn't work. Things were different back then. You can't use the morality of today to express what the morality of something was 200 to 2,000 years ago. It doesn't work. You have to take it by historical context and what was going on. But at least we still have normal people that can actually understand what the context of actual statements are meant.
Yeah.
That's me, Don.
Yeah, very, very wonderful. And as I just tweeted out to you, Mad Dodge, you're more than welcome to come on, but we're going to move on from the story now. No one was disagreeing with you, Mad Dodge Productions, and I must say I will speak for everyone here right now, without a doubt, including Memes, who's the only other Yank. We bow to your unbelievably titanic, insurmountable knowledge of Lincoln, Jefferson, and the entire situation when it comes to the Civil War, sir. We all doff our proverbial caps to you, sir. Your what am I trying to say? Your Civil War penis is much larger than ours. So that said, we thank you for putting in your 2 cents out there in the whatchamacallit. So I think
he was actually right.
Yeah. Sure, I'm sure he was. We can't argue with him because, as I said, he knows his penis is so much larger than ours. So we will move on. Once again, I thank so much my benevolent co-host, Common Sense Guy. I don't know where he finds these things. At this time, it's BuzzFeed, and I must say he reads BuzzFeed, so I do not have to. Before I start, I'll give my preamble. That way I can just shut up and listen to what you folks believe when I'm done reading. This is what happens when Starbucks can throw me out, but throwing 2 black dudes out that haven't bought anything or are just taking up space is then bad. This is what you get, because I have been thrown out of restaurants. I talked about it before, and I have been thrown off of, coincidentally, more than one golf course. I won't say why. I love to golf. So BuzzFeed, this again is from Common Sense Guy via BuzzFeed via Common Sense Guy. These black women say that they were discriminated against after a golf course called the police on them. Owners of the golf course told the women to remove yourselves from the premises after they took a break between the 9th and 10th holes. Lord goodness gracious, I'm not going to make a lot of commentary, but I don't know what took a break means. I don't know what any of this means. So here we go. These lovely ladies, 5 black women were kicked off a golf course in York, Pennsylvania, Saturday after the club owners said they were playing too slowly and took too long of a break between holes. In a Facebook post, Sandra Thompson said she and her friends were told to leave the premises and had the police called on them while they were playing at the Grand View Golf Club. Thompson said, at first they were told that they weren't keeping up with the pace of play, according to the Associated Press. Later, after the women took a break in between the 9th and 10th holes, they were told it had been too long and they had to leave. We, the only all... Excuse me. Quote, we, the only...
Come on, Ogre. You can do it.
All right, please. Thank you. Sorry. Quote, we, the only all African-American group and
Well
the
done.
only all women's group on the Greenview Golf Club course were discriminated against, refused the benefits of our membership, were told to vacate the premises, and had the police called on us, close quote, Thompson wrote on Facebook in a video she posted on YouTube. Several white men are seen confronting the group of women about the issue. One of the men who identifies himself as Jordan Crossner, tells Thompson to remove, quote, remove yourself from the premises in the next 5 minutes, the video shows. The women argued that they took an appropriate break and that the group of men behind them had paused to drink beer and were not ready to tee off. One of the men in the video told the women that the police had been called, and so they waited. Officer, this is so close. I'm going to read the whole thing. Officers arrived, conducted interviews, and left without charging anyone. North York County Regional Police Chief Mark Benzel told the New York Daily Record the situation, quote, did not warrant any charges. Quote, all parties left, and we left as well, Benzel said. The Granville Golf Club has since apologized to the women. Has apologized to the women in a post on Facebook saying that their experience, quote, does not reflect our organization's views. As I said, I will leave it to you, Lot.
Well, if I may just go first, and then you two can duke it out afterwards. The main thing with this is, what were the women actually doing as a break? How long were they taking between the holes? Because when you're a membership of the golf club, you do actually have not a set time limit.
Yes, you do. I've been thrown off of courses. I'm a member. I don't. Yes, carry on. I won't break in again. I'm a member of a golf course. They're fucking strict there, and they don't care what fucking color you are. If they tell you you're too drunk or you're too slow and that you're letting people play through and you're hitting people with golf club, they will throw you out. They don't care who you are.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I was going to say I thought it might be taking too long to get to the holes, but as I was already just said, he's a member, so he actually knows. So it is that way. If you do take too long, then you do get chucked out. But you have to remember, this isn't fucking a government fucking building. This isn't public. This is private. It is a fucking. It's not a right. It's a choice of being able to do something you want to do. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to join because you want to actually join and actually be part of this group and actually use what's going on. So they have set rules. You have to abide by those set rules if you want to use their facilities. Hence why you pay the money. Now, if you're drunk, if you're taking too long, for the actual point of being told beforehand you're taking too long to go through, and then purposely take a break between the 9th and the 10th hole, one might think that you are taking the piss, or as Ogre would say, the Mickey Bliss. Even though we don't actually use that in the UK, but it's Ogre, so it's fine.
Could I just go next, Memes, and add my experience of having played golf at a completely amateur level? First of all, I'd like to say that there were no charges, as with the Starbucks thing. And there are rules at golf courses to make them flow free. I would be interested to see what they were doing before. And considering that a golf course is meant to be as silent as a library, almost, so that people can concentrate, well, were they being too boisterous? I don't get this break between the 9th and the 10th holes, because every course I've played, when you finish on the 9th, you're back at the clubhouse. So in theory, it doesn't matter how long a break you take your break, you go back to the 10th and you fit in with the rest of people in line. And there are the rules that there's a group of 5 of them. If 2 people turn up behind you, you have to let them play through because they're going to be quicker than you. So you have to wait for them to do it. So I don't understand what issues there are. They have technically broken the rules. I don't see where the problem is.
Well, to be fair, as somebody who at one point was a caddy for my dad back in the day, whom happened to be a member of a country club as well, the 9th hole was always my favorite hole because if you're caddying for 18, you're halfway done. Plus, you also get like a snack, like a Coke or something like that, because at least for that particular club, they had like a little snack shack that would be open for so many hours during the day. So usually, yeah, you go there, you grab a beer if you're an adult, or you grab a soda if you're a kid, or something like that. So basically, you get refreshments. As far as what I can tell from watching at least part of the video so far, the gentleman who was a member of the course itself, he said they left the tee at 12:49. At the time of the video, it was then 1:29. So a total of 40 minutes had passed. At some point before this, apparently somebody had said something. It appears the other gentleman, like Moz was saying, the folks that were behind them were literally just, they weren't even waiting or anything. And a lot of times, like you said, if another group is moving much faster, yeah, you let them play through just because that's common courtesy. However, since this is a private establishment, they can set their own rules. My question for this situation would be, is this something that they have a history of doing? If folks are being a little tardy or whatnot between holes, if somebody complains, have they had situations like in the past where they ask them to leave the premise? Because yes, they may have the ability to do that. However, we must remember these gals, apparently at least one of them was a member of the course. So if you are a member of the course, you would expect to be, I don't know, maybe treated a little bit more respectful than maybe somebody that's not playing on the course, depending on the situation, how it's set up. But then again, it also goes back to what CSG was saying, where if this group had been, I don't know, making some noise or something, and it's not like there's ever been a time in history where a group of gals or a group of bloats who might be having a few adult beverages would ever be a little boisterous.
Yeah, I've obviously never been the member of any golf course. I've only ever played on public courses. And any of the issues stated here, I just can't see them being an issue on any course I've ever played on. You know, there's sort of rules or there's the etiquette rules in place that this kind of thing wouldn't be an issue.
But I think they broke the etiquette rules. I mean, and listen, if there were some dudes, if there were some white dudes, as it states, behind some black ladies on a golf course, I'm going to guarantee you the black ladies were fucking up. They're not telling you the truth, folks. We don't see the assholes that these people were being. And of course, we couldn't point it out because if it's some nigger bitches, you can't fucking even say it. Because if you mention it, if you mention that these cocksuckers are being unconscionable assholes on our golf course, why? Then you're a pompous prick. Never mind that these black bitches are also members who can afford to be there. I mean, I hope you get it. I'm going to reiterate this. I have been thrown off of courses was and still am a member at. The King and I are routinely thrown off the Devil's Knob. That's the name of a golf course up here. We're routinely thrown out there. We've been members there for 10 years, both of us. Sometimes they see us and they're like, "You boys can't play here today." I've never missed my fucking dudes there. I've never missed my
just based upon the candor of which you explained that story, Mr. Ogre. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Moz, but
no, it's fine. It's fine.
The times you've been kicked off, did you deserve to be kicked off?
Fuck yeah!
Okay.
I don't want assholes like I was that day on my fucking golf course. Yes, I should have been kicked the fuck off.
Is it possible that these gals did not feel that way?
It's possible that they didn't feel that way, but I think it's very, very...
It doesn't matter if they feel that they are the ones that need to be kicked off or not.
Moz, mute. Somebody mute. We're echoing so bad it's killing me. Is that me?
No, you're fine. To answer your question, Memes, very, very quickly, it doesn't matter if they feel that they've done something wrong or not. You don't go to a kid and go, "Do you feel that you're naughty today?" when you've just destroyed a painting or you've drawn on the walls. You don't ask them, "Oh, do you feel really naughty today?" No, you tell them to get into the corner or go up to their room.
I honestly get the feeling, and I have no evidence of this, but from my experience, I honestly get the feeling that they were playing the course rule. There's 5 of them, couple of people maybe on a few different holes, various people have come up and they've said, "Go and play through," because that is the rules. And while you're the gentleman or someone is there trying to tee up, there's a lot of whooping and hollering and laughing and giggling and joking in the background. And I think that's probably what people have actually complained about. And I could be wrong. I just feel that.
I mean, the only point that I'm going to make on this story, and then I'm going to leave this story, to be fair, is If the golf course decides that you are not good enough or that they don't want you on the golf course, that's up to them. That's not up to you. As a private company, if they don't want you in, they don't have to have you in. And if you've actually done something that they say that you've done wrong, then again, it doesn't matter if you feel you've done something wrong or not. It's up to them. It's their premises. As soon as they say, we don't want you here, you are trespassing. And that's all I've got to say on this story.
And so now they're just starting.
No, sorry, no, I was just watching the video. Threw out there. No, I'm looking there, and again, it's you only see after the conflict had started. What it kind of sounds like here, and again, maybe I'm reading in too much. Maybe I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Actually, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm just maybe reading between some lines about what many people are thinking and or feeling here. And it's just, okay, a representative from the club came up, started speaking with these ladies. Okay, they did not take it well. They basically were like, oh, you told us to get the fuck off. Could the same situation have been done if you got a group of gals and everything? And I mean, hey, we need to be good patriarchs, right? Treat our women well. The Prophet Muhammad commands it. May peace be upon him. But the thing is, when you're going through stuff like that, it's like if you had just gone up and say, hey, gals, how's it going and everything? It just, we got some folks backing up here. I mean, is it possible if you guys could maybe like add a little chutzpah or something to that? Again, this is a terrible phrase, but from what I saw, the guy just went up there, did his job, but he did it kind of more as a robot. Was he within his rights? Abso-fucking-lutely. The issue is, if these gals perceived it the other way, they're like, this white man's telling me to get my ass off this course. Fuck this shit. I mean, if that's how they took it, I mean, I just think a lot of it could have been prevented. But then again, we don't have video evidence, so we're just doing literally he said, she said.
Could I just add on the side note, if this was my course, they would have been kicked off for calling themselves African Americans. That's a term I'm getting a bit fed up with nowadays, because it seems to be to me a way of saying you're oppressing me, Americans, or shut up, Americans. If you know what I mean, it's being used in a different way to say you can't tell me what to do, you can't tell me this, you can't tell me that. You know, unless you've actually come from Africa or your parents came from Africa. If you're born in America, aren't you just American?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
To be fair, I was going to say, to be fair, the actual quotations of when these women put up there, which Oka read so diligently, was, we are the first African American, all women's blah, 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 self-entitlement, blah, blah, blah. So you can kind of gauge what type of people they are by the statement that was made by them.
That's a good point. If they're the first, aren't they technically colonizing the course, and we don't agree with that kind of stuff anymore?
No, they're being part of an empire, and they are completely destroying everything.
I thought they just wanted to play golf.
No. This is secret colonization.
I don't think anymore in today's age people do anything just for the sake of it.
Moz, you really need to sort out your echo, my friend.
Yeah, I won't lie, it's a pain in the ass, but we'll muddle through one or the other. And I'll tell you what, boys, just like I did the last time, I'm trying to not suck up all the oxygen in the room, since we do have some brilliant minds with me today, and I'm not the only one. And I am going to make a wise choice. I was going to have some shots of Johnny Walker Red, but I'm sorry, folks. You're going to have to do without seeing me take shots of Johnny Walker Red. The last few times I've got inebriated on the stream, I thought I was going to die. So I'm going to forego doing that to myself tonight, if that's okay with the rest of you all. And if it's not, you can suck my Jew dick. I'm just not going to do it.
Ogre lies.
That's fair enough, mate.
Yeah, so what shall we say, boys? We're going to toss it on over here we're going to do the same every time. It'll start with Moz, go to memes, go to Common Sense Guy, and I'll go to the next story at the end of that.
Yep, I'm ready to move on. It's up to the other two if they want to carry on or not.
Well, that no, enough said. So hopefully, boys, you had everything you had to say about that. Because I'm not even gonna. If my partner's not ready, man, that's so hard to say that nowadays. I mean, when you say partner nowadays, it like goes to the gay thing. So if my brother is not willing to, if he doesn't have anything else, who is that? I'm gonna find it. Is that me? That's memes. That is memes. Okay,
it's not me.
I'm Mr. Echo.
Yeah,
I'm ruining that.
Yeah, all right. So I will try to give you deference, and yeah, that echo thing, it'll drive you bloody nuts, especially when you're half cock like I am and I had the day that I've had. And that's enough bitching for me. So what we will do right now is we'll move on to story number 3. Let me pull that up. I'm like almost biding my time because, oh, I know where it is. I mean, you know what, folks? Life is a long song. Just when you think it's all over for you, you get that bid comes in, you know, somebody says okay to your proposal and you get that gigantic, you know, job come in that you really needed to have. And just like that, you know, I fucked that up. So this one, believe it or not, is
everybody likes the big sale.
Yes, we do. We all like the big sale. So just like the last one, this comes from the same 2 places, Common Sense Guy and my favorite publication, BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed News says people are spreading conspiracy theories about the rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl. One newspaper even published an entirely fictitious story claiming the girl was not raped, with only a small disclaimer that the article was not real. And this says Hindu truthers, quote, truthers, are spreading conspiracy theories about the rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl that has shocked India. Now, this comes again. I'm going to leave this. This time, we're going to kick this off as soon as I'm done reading to Common Sense Guy, because he's got the hoodoo on why this is important. The victim was from a Muslim family, and according to the police report, her rapists were Hindi men, including 3 police officers who allegedly conspired to abduct, drug, and rape the girl before killing her. The police charge sheet says the motive behind the murder, which took place in a village near this place in the northern state of Jammu, this place in Kashmir, was to drive the girl's tribe's pastor, Muslim nomads. It was to drive the girl's tribe, pastoral Muslim nomads. Let me say that right. I tried to say pastor. Pastoral Muslim nomads. They were Bedouins, I believe is another way to say that, out of land claimed by Hindus. Some of the conspiracies over the girl's murder are based on right-wing groups' reports that present selective facts, while others are outright lies. What more do I need to read on that, boys? A few weeks after the charge sheet was first covered by the press, some newspapers began to speculate that the rape had never occurred. Common sense.
The reason why this is a very important story is for context. We did a stream with On the Offensive on Monday, and in the stream, on Sunday. And on that stream, we had India that was going to bring back capital punishment. This is the story that was going to bring back the version of capital punishment for people that rape girls under the age of 12.
And it was
That's
bollocks?
The context. No. This is the idea that right-wingers apparently, which I don't think it is, but apparently right-wingers are claiming that this is completely falsified and untrue.
So Common Sense, just break the suspense for me. Do you think that this girl was raped and murdered or not?
There's definitely a dead body. That girl has definitely been raped.
She was raped and murdered.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. I don't know whether it was done by the Hindi men or if it was done by other forms of Muslim men. I don't know that part.
Fuck? Who cares?
But
if they're trying to take this as if it shouldn't be the death penalty, well, I will go back and say, if they are going to kill people for murder, this should be on the list too then. So I'm sorry I cut you off twice, mate. At least us two have an agreement that this is bullshit, that they raped this girl and murdered this girl. That's a fact. Who it is irrelevant. And if India wants to impose a death penalty for rape of 8-year-old children, more power to them.
To be fair, I'm not sure if it was the story that I sent you or if it's further down on that story, but it actually states that in that story, I think it's from BuzzFeed, that the police, 2 police officers are actually part of the conspiracy to kidnap and actually rape the girl, 2 Indian police officers.
Ooh, yeah, that's well, a little girl was raped and murdered. That's terrible.
Yeah, but I'm remembering the same thing, common sense. I'm looking for it here. So if it's not here, then we did get it from the story that we read on Sunday. There was police involved in this.
Definitely.
So is the allegation that's fake news?
That's the allegation.
Yes, that's the allegation.
So whether the individuals that raped and murdered this girl happened to be a Muslim or happened to be Hindu, does that matter? Because the girl is still dead.
No, they're actually saying that it actually didn't happen at all.
What? But the girl's dead.
Yeah, no. They're actually saying that they believe that this never happened whatsoever, and this is a left-wing propaganda tool to be able to get the capital punishment back for people that rape. They think it's an underhanded version of being able to do it. As far as my understanding is from reading it.
Could we look at this from a slightly different point of view and ask what has happened in the world where certain individuals think that this kind of behavior in the first place is even acceptable? And a question that I've never thought of is that it's a stupid question, but don't these people know what masturbation is? Can't they get these urges out of themselves without having to damage someone else?
But to answer that question, the argument that I've heard, Moz, is that masturbation is against their religion, but children without pubic hair, prepubescent children, are not considered men and women. So to do what you want to do with them is not a sin. So by these people,
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that if someone from the time they're born to the time they start getting urges is told, if there's hair on the grass, play, you know, that's the issue. It's the cultural ideas, I think.
Yes, that
interpretation sounded terrible. Not Moz's, but well, it's not a man, it's not a woman, so let's do that. That just doesn't sound correct to me.
But with all due respect, memes, I don't know if you realize it or not. That is their dogma. If there is no pubic hair, that's what they go by. They say you can't rape a woman or a man because the only thing the Quran says
that sounds like all men are created equal.
Well, I'm not going to say that it doesn't, man. We all have our weird crotchets. I'm just going to say that all men are created equal is a pretty good idea, and that raping someone without pubic hairs is not a good idea. I would just submit that.
I just think
number one universal truth.
I just think in general, I was, and I always say this, I was taught that raping's bad, and people go, why did you need to be taught? And it was, no, because it's etiquette again. When you get older, whatever you feel, whatever happens, you don't physically abuse women, men, dogs, animals, or anything.
Right.
And I think out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the sticks, where there isn't that information, people are doing something, getting away with it, and they're not seeing that it's bad, and so it just seems normal to them.
Yeah, I'm sorry on that point. It's a case of nobody ever fucking told me not to rape. I've never raped anybody.
Amen.
Well, I think society in general, when you look around you and you watch a film and a woman's being raped and everyone's just cringing, you know yourself with inside that feeling that you're feeling is cringe, and this is terrible. That shouldn't happen, and I'm never going to do that.
Well, I wouldn't use the word cringe. I would use more of the word of disgust. If if it's acted properly, you can see the fact that the woman is trying to fight back, or is so dead that they don't even want to look at the person. So you can see if it's acted properly, you can see that it's not a natural thing to happen.
Well, then let me put it in terms of certain cultures again. Believe that if you're showing your kneecaps, that means you want it. That's the wrong thing to be teaching.
And those are the advanced ones we should accept in our society. I really can't say much right now. That's fucking disgusting.
Do not kill, do not rape, do not steal. These are codes of conduct that men of all faiths can agree.
But
can they? And the problem is, memes, is that they define rape differently, because I'll say it again. According to the imams, according to Muslims, you can't rape an 8-year-old girl or an 8-year-old boy. In fact, they don't rape a lot of girls. And as if you look at the rape, there are 25-30% of the children that are raped are girls. They like to rape boys. Who knows why? I can only speculate. But again, to them, they're not raping anybody because they're not a man or a woman. So that this is, listen, my stepson went through this, okay? I don't know. He would kill me right now just for saying that. So I can't make a lot of ties. But when I adopted this boy, his family took him over to the promised land and they lived over there, and he was introduced to Muslims. He still defends them. The man that adopted him is a Jew. He knows it, and he still defends the people that raped him as a child because he didn't have pubic hair. So when he was out at the Olive Grove late at night with Abdullah the fucking buggerer, he got raped, and his father was expected to deal with it. I don't understand that.
That sounds like a poor interpretation presented by some for justification by others.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, and it's like you said, Mr. Ogre, we get into back to the old, what's your definition of is game?
Well, because I could look at the Bible and say that if you're gay, I can fucking stone and kill you, right? So I love what you just said. That is the best way to say it. That is the most diplomatic and correct way to say it. The problem is not with Islam. It's hard for me to say as a Jew, but I'm going to tell the truth. The problem is not with Islam. It's not with Muslims. The problem is a bogus interpretation that allows them to justify the evil they do.
I've seen a situation in the past, and I won't go into it much. It wasn't anything to do with me, but I've seen this situation where a father was acting in a position and was acting very inappropriately towards 15-year-olds. And that's all I say on it. But he had a son who was doing the same actions, and they both answered to the police for it. But it made me think to myself, well, the son, I'm not letting him off, but if his father has brought him up and he has seen this behavior and he's been around this behavior, how would he know it's wrong if his father's doing it and if his father's deeming it okay, if that makes sense?
Well, that's the thing, though. We do learn from our fathers. We do learn from adult figures, especially when they are family members. And if you watch or are a victim of abuse 8 times out of 10, you will generally go down that route because you feel that it's normal, it's natural, and it happened to you. It's weird things to be able to talk about, but at the same time, it's a case of re-education needs to be applied. It's a case of you need to actually sort out everything that's going wrong with that child, that person, and that family. Take it, for instance, from the idea of rapes, these rape gangs. These men, are the ones that have just decided to rape these children for no good? Or do we think that it comes through an identity or a culture that's being taught in particular places? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the religion in general, but maybe it's their father's interpretation of the religion. It's a case of, where do we go? Nobody's talking about it. We need to find out the reasons why. Everybody's interpretation of things is slightly different, but we first need to find out what they think and how they got to that point. We can then do something about it afterwards. We can't just attack something that we don't know is happening.
Yes. And okay, lads, on that, if I may, I'm going to go ahead and segue right now because we could talk about this all day. Assumption. I just heard Common Sense guy say assume, assumption, and we got this, you know, that everybody says the thing. I'm not going to say right now because I don't want Common Sense guy to think I'm saying that he's an asshole or it stinks like shit. It's not the way. But
just don't make an ass out of me or you.
Right. You know what I mean? So when I saw this story, lads, the first thing that I thought was, well, these people believe that buggery is okay. I mean, all these things. So I am prejudiced. I'm going to be the first to admit I'm Jewish. So of course, I'm a little prejudiced about Muslims. Okay. I mean, I try, but it's the best I can do is try. A little prejudiced. This is from Sky News, I believe, brung to us from Common Sense Guy. If not, I apologize to whoever brung it to us. He did bring us a lot of stories today. Toronto van attack suspect Alec Menacin.
Memes, can you just silence yourself for a while?
Yeah. And if not, somebody say this name. Manassian. I think it's Alec Manassian. Charged with 10 counts of murder. As Alec Manassian appears in court, police are trying to establish a motive for the worst mass killing in Canada in decades. Oh, they should probably make guns illegal up there. That way they wouldn't have this kind of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me carry on without my own.
Wrong story.
Yeah, sorry. Let me not try to shoehorn my own narrative into this. The Toronto van attack suspect has been charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder and 13 cases of attempted murder. Alec Manassian, 25, is suspected of driving a rented van that mounted the pavement on a busy street at lunchtime, killing 10 people. Another 15 are believed to have been injured. Manassian, who was arrested shortly after the attack on Monday, made his first court appearance. He wore a white jail jumpsuit and had his hands handcuffed. He showed little emotion. He was asked to say his name and if he understood in order to not have any contact with anyone injured in the attack. He did not enter a plea to the charges and was ordered to return to court on the 10th of May. He will return. He's in jail. The judge ordered that he be detained without bond. Manassian of Richmond Hill, an area close to the attack, was captured in a tense but brief confrontation with officers a few streets away from where the van mounted the pavement and continued for a mile, leaving people bloodied and dead. A number of witness accounts suggest that the incident was carried out on purpose, with the police chief agreeing that the behavior was intentional. Quote, the incident definitely looked deliberate, police chief Mark Saunders told reporters. The identities of the victims are slowly emerging, with 2 South Koreans believed to be among the dead. Why would they mention that, boys, as I continue? Why would they say 2? Okay, anyway. Officials have said that although the attack has the hallmarks of other deadly vehicle assaults by Islamic State supporters in the U.S. and Europe, it did not represent a threat to the national security. Does anyone know what they're saying caused this? It's down here.
I know what caused this.
Yes.
I read it. It's the idea of something called incel.
Yes.
There we go. That bit there. Oh, the idea that they can't find it's actually not just to do with women. It's actually to do with the fact that average people, the actual proper definition of incel, is the fact that average people average people don't have pretty people talk to them or don't acknowledge them. That's the idea of incel, the fact that the pretty people have got it good. That being judged on looks makes them feel better. Yeah. That's actually what the incel means. So this person actually run people over because he had a problem with the way that people looked, and that he felt that good look. Yep.
Involuntary celibacy is what that means. Go ahead, sir.
Yep. Yeah, that's the full term. But it is to do with both men and women. That they won't have sexual relationships with anybody because that they feel that the ones that are too pretty won't talk to them, so they're going to exclude everybody to make some sort of fucking point.
Chads and Stacy's. You can't even make that up. That was from this crazy kid in Florida, and now I'm going to kick it completely over to everybody. I think we've got it all covered. This is from a person that, even though I was one of the ones that thought, oh, it's Islam for sure. It's Islam because they weren't releasing his name. I was going by Coulter's law and everything else, but it wasn't. This appears to be a crazy incel, involuntary celibate that hates Chads and Stacy's.
Yep.
I'm more worried in some ways that we've seen some vans of peace, and like with gun crime, knife crime, or whatever you want to apply it to, when something happens enough, the smaller fringes, if you like, they start taking that up as their plea as well. They start saying, well, if these people are doing it, and it's kind of what we were talking about before, who are you learning from? If you're just learning from the mainstream media, or you're just learning from the right-wing media that this thing happens 20 times a day, eventually, when you crack inside yourself, you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah, we often search for just reasons, just why things happen. And for me, this sounds like an individual who was in a lot of pain, and he decided to turn his pain into malice against the world. And he did, in fact, do an alternative copycat to another individual whom apparently was of a similar incel nature, in that he felt like, well, I'm not getting attention. There's no hope for me. Things seem hopeless, so I need to turn my hatred upon the world and take out as many people as possible. And I believe this individual was also diagnosed with some mental...
No, not yet.
Okay. They said at one point, I had heard some speculation, and again, we don't know, but again, if anyone opens up the DSM-4, the DSM-5, if you read through long enough, you're going to find something that you're going to identify with and be like, oh my God. It's kind of like a lot of folks that study medicine.
It's fucking that thick.
Hypochondriacs. Yeah.
It's 4 inches fucking thick.
Oh, and it's a good point you're making there, because
hang on. Let memes carry on.
Yes, let's let them carry on, but let's also let everybody know that when he says the DSM-5 and the DSM-4, he means the say the name, the Diagnostic
Statistician's Manual. It's basically used in psychology. It's basically you come up with a bunch of terms to classify things in a way that makes sense for mental health professionals. That's basically all I really had to say is just, I think this is happening a lot, especially in like internet culture and stuff. Sorry to cut you off, Moz. I just want to wrap up this point in that you just have. Oh, exactly, dude. We have a lot of individuals, young individuals, typically. A lot of them happen to be men that are basically just have either lived primarily online. I am one of these people, or I happen to be old enough that I wasn't part of it, but folks that literally grew up online and stuff and maybe don't have all the social interactions, and they see all these things and they become parts of these groups. And it just comes down to, well, I don't know. I tend to think if everyone was getting laid and had a home, I think there'd be more peace in the world.
Yeah, I'm going to have to completely and utterly disagree with you on that one, Memes. The simple fact is that there's always been ugly people. There's always been people that can't fuck the person that they want to fuck. And it's a case of get over it and move on. It's not a case of driving a van into over 10, 15 people to try and kill them because you can't get laid. That doesn't work.
Oh, it's a terrible reason, but I'm saying I think it's beyond just the strict ideology. It's just if he's an individual and he happens to feel that the world is against him, he's never going to have happiness. It almost comes down to it's like a financial equation. I know I'm going to bore the crowd, but the short story is anyone that remembers World of Warcraft, time is money. So basically there's a tool in finance they call discounting, because basically $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow because you could spend it on something. So basically he saw his future happiness throughout his entire life. And this is how he viewed it potentially, in that it wouldn't be worth the pain he is currently going through now to achieve happiness. And again, I don't necessarily feel it's the ideology. It's just, here's a dude that thought he would never be happy. And let's face it, man, anybody that's actually had like love for another human being, girl, guy, whatever it might be, having that physical contact and releasing oxytocin, it's a powerful thing. And to not have that, it's got to suck.
Yeah, but the thing is, he did have that. It wasn't a case that he wasn't celibate beforehand. You have to remember, he was over the age of 20-something. He had
25.
contact with different people. Exactly. He's had physical contact with different people. It is a choice of being involuntarily celibate. It's not a case of they've come out and gone, oh, right, okay, well, I'm going to voluntarily choose. It's a case that they believe that they're now going to be celibate because nobody likes them.
But I thought it was involuntarily.
Yeah, that's what I just said. But I said that they are not being voluntary. It's not a case of them choosing voluntary. It's a case of them thinking that they are involuntarily celibate, that nobody likes them. I did clarify that before you cut in.
They think it. And let's do this, boys. I appreciate everybody's opinion, but we've gone long on all this stuff, and we have a very short time, and we will have our final words. That's the most important thing to me. We got one more story. So humor me, and let's do this. Common Sense Guy, give your final word on this story, and we will move on to the final story.
Yeah, that's fine. I was literally just about to ask if I could just finish my point. Thank you for letting me. It's a case of, on this, just because somebody has decided that they're now going to be voluntarily fucking celibate because they believe that involuntarily they're never going to be chosen. It's a case that when I was younger, always wanted to have a girlfriend. It was the only thing that I fucking wanted. I didn't want money. I didn't want to play football. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted a girlfriend.
Cheers.
Does that mean that I would have wanted or had the choice, because I didn't get one in the first 5 years or whatever, that I had the choice of being able to go and run somebody over? Or is it a case that I had to be a man about it and realize that maybe I can't get those perfect 10s because I'm not as pretty as I should be? Maybe I don't have the maybe I should lower the bar and actually go for the 6s and the 7s and then work my way down, maybe. You know, like common sense people would fucking actually do, or general people do. You set your bar high and then you go down. You don't just go, well, I'm sticking with a 10 and that's it. You're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and I love everyone here, but we're going to leave it at that because there's no wiser words ever said. If you want some poontang and you can't get the poontang you want, well, everybody needs love. You can find someone that will lead love. So thank you so much for those final words, Common Sense Guy. Let's wrap it up on this. This is going to be very, very, very brief, folks, because as I said, we've only got 8 minutes to the Red Eye stream. We're probably going to run a little bit into that, but I do enjoy that stream, and I don't like to step on his toes. He's always late, though, folks, so I do believe we get about 30 minutes. So let's do this in 10 if we can, which means I can read, and I can bounce it off to my interlocutors here, and we can see what they think. BBC News. Thank you once again. I do believe, Common Sense Guy, if you didn't get this story, I'm thanking you anyway. Germany's Jews urged not to wear their head
kippas.
Yeah, well, I call it yarmulke. So their head coverings after attacks. And so if I say yarmulkes where it says this, isn't that yarmulke? But anyway, we'll go with that. So the leader of Germany's Jewish community has advised Jews to avoid wearing traditional skull caps, yarmulkes, following anti-Semitic attacks. Josef Schuster, the president of the Central Council of Jews in Germany, told Berlin Public Radio that Jews should exercise caution in big cities. His comments came ahead of Berlin Wears Yarmulkes Solidarity March in German capital on Wednesday. The attacker was filmed shouting anti-Semitic abuse. Last week, 2 young men wearing yarmulkes were assaulted in the city, and the attacker was filmed shouting anti-Semitic abuse. Jewish organizations in Germany have expressed alarm over a number of recent anti-Semitic insults and threats in schools. At the weekend, Chancellor Angela Merkel condemned what she described as another form of anti-Semitism. She told Israel's Channel 10 TV network that aside from anti-Semitism by right-wing groups, why did they have to put that in there? Similar threats were coming from some Muslim refugees in the country. Listen, why did they have to put that? I'm going to kick this off, boys, because we ain't got much time. but this makes me a little sick to my stomach that they would mention right-wing groups when we know that Muslims say they will have no relief and no peace until all of my kind, and coincidentally, memes kind, driven into the sea.
Well, the reason why they say right-wing groups is because they actually have videos, and it's not just one, they have a couple of videos now of actual Muslims and actual people that of Arab descent, so to speak, are actually attacking Jews and actually having protests for it as well. They actually have lots of videos. If you go onto the Voice of Europe and go onto their Twitter channel, you'd see fucking tons of them.
But no, sir, if you may unpack. So I want to follow you. You're saying because they have pictures of Muslims attacking Jews. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So they want to shift focus, is what I believe you're trying to say. No,
they want to try and draw a forced parallel. They want to try and say that this is equal on both sides when it's not. We know it's mainly a pandemic on the Muslim side. Otherwise, it would be a case of if right wings were doing that, then the right wing actually outnumbers the Muslims in most countries. So it would be a case of everybody would be getting attacked by Jewish people. And it's a coincidental point, and I've said this many years ago, actually. I said this about 3 years ago, when everybody was saying, the attack on women is going up. Attack on older women that are being academic, they're going up. I wonder why. Do you think it's something to do with the population that's now being diluted? Do you think it's something to do with the culture that you invited into your country? It's the same with this anti-Semitism that seems to be going around everywhere. Why is it going up? And why is it being pushed that it's always on the right-hand side? Now, don't get me wrong. I do know that most people that are completely and utterly alt-right dislike the Jews and think the Jews are in power for everything. But Muslims are slightly worse. It's not a case of paranoia that makes them attack Jews. It's a case that they actually are told to persecute the Jews. They are told that it's acceptable. They are told to go and behead the Jews, behead all of the infidels, behead the kafir. They are told to go and do that.
And because we're pressed for time...
Could I just add quickly?
Yes. Hang on. Yeah. In fact, I cut Common Sense off. So when he finishes... say something very brief, Moz, and then I want to give the final word to my brother Jew. So I'm sorry. Okay. No,
I'm fine. I'm done.
Sorry, cut it when I thought you were done, sir. So Moz, be very brief, and then let's give the last word on this story before we go into our final words. And Moz, that will be you first.
Yeah.
Memes, if you'd like to wrap us up on this as a brother Jew, how does this story move you? Should we even give a shit about it?
Well, I mean, I tend to believe that things do come full circle, and to be fair, Germany does have a history of hating on Jews, but no, that's just being facetious there, and that was a terrible joke. But the thing that goes on, it's like CSG said, it's like, all right, you're bringing in a bunch of folks that are of a particular culture. You're basically putting them in with other folks of a different culture, and you're like, well, this should be fine. Anybody that's ever cooked anything in the world before that involves more than like the 32 steps to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it realizes that, yeah, things matter. If you have proper integration stuff, I'll give you an example, like for where I live. The current place where I live, it used to be the place where you'd meet with a friend of a friend, and you would meet folks here for shady things. Now it's completely different. What did they do? Yes, there is some affordable housing here, but what they did is they made sure the folks that were purchasing said houses had to stay in said houses. So basically, you weren't going to have it turn into a quote-unquote slum. So what you did is you were using proper integration throughout the community. So they all would become, hopefully at some point, German. Just like we were talking earlier about the UK. And here's the thing, you just got to be pragmatic. But if you completely ignore things and say, nothing is wrong, that's how you get an Enron, man. So you got to adjust stuff as it comes and just be fucking honest.
And man, that was very well said. Yeah, make your quick point.
Yeah, the quick point I wanted to make was Jewish people shouldn't wear yarmulkes. In my country, English people have been told don't fly St. George flag in your window because it could get broken. don't have a piggy bank that's shaped like a piggy in your window because it's offensive. At what point are they going to ask me tomorrow to go out and start wearing different coloured, different types of shoes with a badge on that says "Dear me"?
Amen. So that said, look, you've got a big start here on us, Moz. So this is it, boys. We're going to wrap it up. Let's do this. Start with Moz, go to memes, go to Common Sense Guy, and then I will wrap it up. Anything you want to say, you could piggyback on what you were just saying, Moz. You could bring up one of the other stories. You could talk about something completely different. Doesn't really matter. I just want to say before we start, all hail Count Dankula, the 800 quid killer.
Hail Dank, hail Dank. I just want to quickly ask, well, you guys have been doing this a lot longer than I have, so I don't know how long it's been going on. I don't know what the issues are and that kind of thing. But I, as part of one of my ideas for the manifesto, I was going to say, well, we have to go back in time and stop changing words and fix to specific words that mean specific English things. And I thought I was going to be clever and pull out my old dictionary from years ago and use those words. And I was surprised. I was honestly surprised. My dictionary that I have, Concise Oxford English Dictionary, is from 1999. So that's nearly 20 years ago. And when I read the definitions of words, to make it quick, I looked up racism, obviously, first. It didn't mention that it was based on the fact of color. So I looked up the word race. And right at the bottom of the word race, from 1999, there's a little box that it explains this quite simply. In recent years, the association of race with the ideologies and theories that grew out of the work of the 19th anthropologists and physiologists has led to the use of the word race itself becoming problematic. That's from 1999. It then goes on to say, we still used in general, well, when still used in general context is now often blah, blah, blah. But it says it's less emotionally charged if we use words as peoples or communities. And I'm just asking people to think about it. How long has this been going on? That's 20 years. And I didn't know that they were changing words back then. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to my host for having me on. Really appreciate it. And God bless chat. You're always my favorite.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll carry on from that. We'll act like he didn't just give us a cyber blowjob. Thank you so much for that, though, sir. It was very kind of you. Memes?
But yeah, no, actually, it's very interesting going back to actually what Moz says, because he brings up an extremely important point. We live in the age of dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster.com, all these places where we got our definitions for words, for our language that we use to communicate. Because remember, God gave us the word. It's up to us with what we do with it. But back in the day, yes, things were published. It was a very long process. The printing press revolutionized it, and the internet is revolutionizing it as well with our digital technology. But back in the day, like Moz said, things were printed. So they existed. Now you can go onto whatever website, search engine, you're always going to find some default things that will lead you to different definitions. If you look at these definitions, often they're very similar, but there are very small deviations there. And that's where we end up getting a lot of different things. And my actual main point is just a bit of a warning, because we see all the stuff going on with all these different groups online that hate each other. They're trying to defeat the quote unquote other side there. And if some things are digital, it's very easy to change things. And if they blatantly just said in print that these things are problematic 20 years ago, which, let's face it, I mean, it pisses folks off. I mean, if anything, like for me back in the day, I know, side tangent, I was like, well, why should race ever matter? The only time that should ever matter is if, like, they're like, I'm a criminal suspect, and it's like, all right, look for some kind of white dude that looks like a Viking running down the street in a singlet. But I mean, that's another story altogether. But if you want to solve it, just go with the freaking pigment scale. And then we just argue over the scale. Who's a 0 and who's a 10? But if these companies and these corporations and individuals, if they have the ability to slightly change definitions and words on their own sites that are presenting these words, is that not actually changing our reality? Or is it shifting us in a different direction? I don't know. Maybe we should just archive more. That's all I got to say about that.
Cheers. Do you have a final word, Common Sense Guy? I think you said you were going to split. Whatever you want to do, brother. Okay. I'm going to give him a little bit of time here, just a couple seconds. I know that Common Sense is a very staunch individual. He's always been here for me. So I see he's saying goodbye out in the chat. I'm going to assume that this may be he's said goodbye and is possibly just hanging about here. He's had a rough day, folks. So I'm just going to ask once again, if you care about the Common Sense Guy even a little bit, here he is. I see him unmiked. Go by and tell him you like him. Do you have a last word, Common Sense?
I do indeed, yes. I just wanted to say thank you very much, Memes. Thank you very much, Moz, for coming on. The idea of having a manifesto for the idea of a new political party made up solely by the idea of British values and British people and working class people is absolutely amazing. I'm going to give it a good old thought. And within the next 2 days, I'm going to build myself a manifesto and I'm going to present it to you guys, probably live on Friday, to be fair. I'm going to quickly go through it with everybody on the Friday. Obviously, with my co-hosts as well, I will go through it with them beforehand so they have an idea so we can talk about it. With that also being said, the idea that all these gentlemen have already brought up is the idea that interpretations have been changed. And it's the idea from the first actual story that we talked about, which was the idea of Lincoln being a racist. Now, this is to do with the interpretation of that person. And we are now giving people that interpretate things in a bad light so much more power than the people that interpret it in a good light or in the way that it's supposed to be meant. We can take that and extrapolate it to the point of Count Dankula, to the point that a couple of people may have thought that the idea of gassing the Jews in context of a joke is bad. The idea that getting a dog to be able to react to that, which was the context, is bad. And that is the point. The idea that interpretation is now the way that people can now put you into prison or now falsify people in history to say, no, I think that this guy's racist and I think this guy is absolutely problematic, as the word is of the day, and we need to do something about this. That Lord Nelson was racist and didn't care one iota about the fucking country. The fact that people like Isaac Newton were racist and didn't give a shit about anything. Apparently, the ideas of context and historical context doesn't matter anymore because the interpretation of people and liberals nowadays that want to try and make a story for themselves because they don't feel natural outrage against this. This is manufactured outrage. The outrage to be able to push a viral meme, to push a viral story. That's what these are doing now. They're not in it for the idea of actually thinking about equality. Because if they were thinking about equality, why would they have to go to historical matters to be able to find inequality? Why aren't they bringing up inequality today? I'll tell you why. Because there's fuck all they can find. Thank you very much for everybody for turning up. Thank you very much, Ogre, for having us on.
My goodness, young man. Sometimes I think you're just trying to outdo me. Well said. Listen, folks, I don't have a lot to say today. I think the story's wrapped it up. The Muslim threat is a threat. I mean, that they printed a story about yarmulkes or memes. Say the other name. I should know how to say it. What do you say?
Kippas.
Kippa?
It's Kippa.
Kippas.
That's it. It's Kippa. No, you said it right. It's a very clipped way they said it. Well, I'm only saying it's right because he's a Jew too. Anyway, that said, boys, and that wasn't the controversy. It's just that are we joking with ourselves? Are we being willfully ignorant? You can wear. I was just at the Hilton with Mrs. Ogre in Chicago. on the Miraculous Mile, not the Miracle Mile, the Miraculous Mile, right there on the shores of Lake Michigan. Beautiful place. There were fucking women in there in the things with the slit in the thing. Burqa, what is that? A hijab, whatever. There were women in there. No one told. I wasn't gonna lie to you. When I see that, it's like, wow, it's weird. Okay, call me a phobe of whatever kind you want. Fuck you and your family. I'm not a phobe. And as I said, excuse me, as I said in the beginning of this, we don't really abide masked men here or masked women. It all seems a little strange to us. And as a Jew, when I see this invading the country here, there's unease sets in. That's the best thing I can say. Not only because I'm a Jew and I feel uneasy about more things than you goys do, but because these people say they want to drive me and my people off the face of the earth. We have a newcomer here, sir. I'm so sorry you came at the end of our final words, so I'm going to wrap up. If you'd like to hang out in the after chat, you're more than welcome. I do recognize the XJW, so I do think I know you, but I'm going to wrap it up and we're going to end. So look, we need not throw common sense out the window. We don't need to say that, oh, there's no such thing as common sense, so we got to throw. No, there is a faction, there is a group, there's a contention, there's a quorum amongst the Muzzies, and that is they don't like us. They don't like our ways. They want to live in our countries. We know why. Take too long to talk about why. They want to live in our countries, but they only want to live in our countries if they can have Sharia law. They want to come and take any wealth that they can from the society while they maintain their own society that has sapped the wealth from where they are from. Where are they from? They're from the desert. They're Bedouins. They're goat herders. Does that make them less than me? No, I am a chicken farmer. I would not put a man down for anything he decided to make his vocation. I would call into question any man that would want to kill Memes and I simply because our great grandfather was Abraham. Guess what, you muzzies? Your great grandfather was Abraham also. It's high time we embraced each other as brothers. And remember, folks, be good to your family members, be good to your friends, be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, or your long-lost brother, the Muslims, have done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because, constant viewers, my friends, fellow humans at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, and everything you know will depart from you.